oh, that's so sweet. Everybody's blossoming, but we're taking some beatings too, not in a bad way. Good beatings. Good beatings. I'm going to flip on. Welcome everybody to the live and replay. We're on 34 minutes early. Todd's usually late, but we're just trying to work with the time zones, and we got the Greenshields with us, which is always awesome. Okay. Kirsty's going to be with us for the next half hour, and then she's got to go do mommy duties. And James will have to keep us company, and we'll probably both be crying full of snot by the time the show's over. But yeah, welcome everybody on the live and replay. And we have been getting suppressed. We had a pretty good turnout today. So if you could share it to one page or one group, that would be really cool. We will have this. We will have an alternative in 2 days. We will be going live with our website, and all of the shows will originate from the website. We'll still be multi-streaming on the various platforms, and actually more. We're going to increase the number. Yeah, but for the time being, just so we can get the word out. We'll be right back in a minute, 19 seconds. Oops. Nobody could see you. I could see you're chugging something. I've been chugging some stuff too lately, trying to deal with this. I'm kidding. I'm kind of kidding. Those who know me know I'm probably not kidding, but no, I'm kidding. It's it's what can I say? You guys are you're just the real deal, in my opinion. You speak the truth. You speak the truth to each other. You're bold enough to share it with everybody, and we pick up codes from you. And like I said before the show, this platform is expanding dramatically. I think this is going to be a dramatic expansion. I've seen it in the ethers for a long time. And I got to say, with this David Icke interview coming up and some of the other powerful people who are coming up around him, I think we're going to be able to facilitate the expansion of people who are living the dream, and enhance what they're doing and expand awareness of what they're doing. So we want to help you and people like you do that. And anyway, I just want to say I'm part of your admiration society, and Morgan is too. And I know now you guys are. Wait a minute, you're in. Where are you at? You're in Mimaba. Mimaba?
Mullumbimby.
But regardless of that.
Hey, mate.
Close enough.
Yeah, it's there.
But so you've got that. We talked about it last time when you both came on separately. So you've got that pressure of that thing that's been going on all year. You've got everything that's been going on, that's real, that we're all feeling. And I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis. You tell me, is this how it's gone for you? Add, subtract, and elaborate, and the floor is yours. But it looked like in the latter part of September, and Morgan did receive intel. I don't know if you saw any of those shows where I talked about it. We were told we're going to go to Sedona. We were told we're going to meet up with couples in the physical with similar frequency. We were told we're going to meet androgynous beings of similar frequency. And all of this happened. And we were told that it was happening all around the world, and that there would be like a meeting of these types of frequencies, and then they would pulsate out onto the grid, and then we would go about our business. Well, going about our business seemed to be from around October the 1st to around the 15th. It was, as they say, when you pledge a fraternity in the U.S., it was like Hell Week. You know, everybody that I saw was going, holy, you know, guacamole. I was going to say something else, but I'm going to try to behave. I mean, it affected everyone. Now, Morgan's intel and some other people's intel, masculine, feminine, coming further together. And then the latter part of October seemed to settle down a little bit. The election comes. Everybody went nuts on the 3rd because of the energy, I guess. And here we are, moving into the home stretch. A lot of people have been calling this solstice as being the birth of the golden child energy. And a lot of people are in line with that, not like it's an event and it's going to happen, the universe is going to wink at us and all that, but more of a what energy is accessible and available, and what do we do with it now from this higher awareness. Have you guys just been having your typical fluffy love and light lifestyle as usual? How was this time period for y'all? Can you add anything to that?
It's so hard for me to remember dates. I resonate with what you're saying. What I've found is we've found that we're at a place where everything that we've been wanting, working to create is starting to become real in a more expanded sense. So it has been real for quite some time, because we've chosen to live that way, in a fluffy light and love kind of way. But for us, it's really been what we've been doing, and I'll speak for myself and James can speak for himself, but I've been coming to this more centered space of peace within myself.
Yeah.
And that real alignment of my internal masculine and feminine, and really digging up the deep wounds that have been, you're talking about your distorted masculine, Todd, like I've been dealing with my distorted masculine as well. And you know, James has too, I'm sure. So that's what we've seen. Part of me has also wanted things to go faster, because that's been my, my Aries warrior wants things to move right now. But it's like we've been in this flux. And I just walked into James a few days ago, and I had this realization during yoga that I'm really being asked to surrender to a different level. Like my feminine is being asked to surrender to a different level and expand into my being, expand more into my being, so that my masculine can rise and expand himself within my being as well. So it's been this process of a constant rhythm, which has seemed to go so fast, but at times has felt like it's just going on forever. And I really, the last couple of nights I've been awake early in the morning, like 2 and 3 a.m. And I've these strong understanding of how we are all being called so much more now to stand in our own power collectively. That's what this election, whatever is going on in the United States, is calling us to do. Like there's no one out there. It's so clear there's no one out there that's going to save us now.
Yeah.
And people that will continue to hold on. But every time you look outside and think, oh, this is it, something shifts and changes. And the only place that we can rely on is in here.
Yeah.
So that's what it's been for me, I guess.
That's very well put. I love the way you said that. Like it's becoming obvious that there's no one out there. That's true. I'd not heard it put that way, but that's what's happening. And I think in some of this I picked up on from watching. I don't do it anymore. Watching the videos in Melbourne, and see, like I remember last week there was like 15 people. That lady, what is it called? I can't remember. But anyway, they went out to the park. They got surrounded by 200 cops, and they all got arrested. And then the next day, which I believe was a holiday for y'all, because Morgan was trying to figure out how did those people
For the Melbourne Cup, for the horse race.
Yeah. There was hundreds of people went out the next day, right? And I just got this feeling of they're starting to say, "Fuck this," like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what? It's almost like a rudderless ship, and they're going, "Hey, wait a minute, this ain't working." It's an energy, it's a frequency, and you described it real well. Yeah. And so, and James, how's it been for you?
It's like the past and the present the past and the future don't exist at the moment for me. Like, I'm really having to ground myself in the present moment to work out what day it is and what's coming up next, even within the day. And I was discussing this with a person I'm working with yesterday, and she's getting exactly the same feeling. And it's a really, like, it's a beautiful place to be, but at the same time, for me, it's I'm becoming used to it. So it's an acclimatization feeling going on for me. And Neil just mentioned, the fact that the union of the divine masculine, etc., is not androgyny, and I completely agree. Because the masculine and the feminine, when united, become the sacred union. They're the poles. But the apex of the pole, when you transcend, is to a place of androgyny. And there's this whole point about inclusion of the wound and transcending. That's where I've been doing all my work internally lately, and well, it's always been, but even more so, it's been really clear about the way that all the wounds are inclusive. They need to be included before we can transcend. And so, my message on platforms at the moment is about forgiveness, because forgiveness is actually, if you look at it, when we talk surrender, what we're actually talking about in the mechanics of the healing process is forgiveness of those elements of ourself. And in the forgiveness part, we come into this balanced state. And the balanced state is where we're naturally meant to be. So I'm actually moving away from utilizing the word surrender, because surrender is the opposite of war. If you think about it, it's opposite of fight. So when we go into this place of forgiveness, we naturally align to where divinely we're meant to be, and the energies themselves are really meant to be. And it's in essence called the essence of transcendence. And I've been really feeling that inside myself, and getting amused as hell about, like, little things I used to get when I had a perfectionist streak. Never believed that I had a perfectionist streak, but I did. And things and timings wouldn't go right and everything like that. And I used to get annoyed. Now it's like, I wonder what's happening now, And there's this wonders coming back into me even more, and I'm playing with that, and that's helping me acclimatize to being just really comfortable and happy in the present moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like what you said too about and Neil's comment too, because the feminine and the masculine energy is very, very front and center, and maybe that's because of what people are talking about. Even somebody today, Martin McNichol, saying how this December 21 is like we're really getting rid of the last pieces. I know for me, and I've talked about it today, I'm not going to get into it in depth, but there's been this part of the distorted masculine that for the first time in my life is actually hurting me as it's leaving. Like I'm not having a problem separating from it, but it's very much at the core, very much something I need to do on my own. And as I was listening to Kirsty talk about her own experience, it sounds and feels like what I'm feeling. you know.
Mine is yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Mine is like the distorted feminine leaving my body, because in the realization, you know, working with yoga, because I work with yoga so much, I've just seen where the distorted feminine has held on in my body, in my physical body, for so long, and how it's created what it has, you know. And this is stuff that I've worked on for a long time, but so deep, it's just so deep, and it's that density in the physical body that's really letting go now. And yeah, and it does feel painful at times, and that breath is so important. That breath and being in the present moment and just being with that is so important. And I've described a couple of times this week how it's, for what I've realized is, you know, there's the little child within me too that doesn't want to let go, and that's part of my physical restriction. And it was given in a reflection with my youngest daughter last week, and something happened. And in that moment, in the interaction with her, I had this reflection, complete and tangible reflection of the little child not wanting to let go, and me feeling powerless to that. And in that moment, all I could do was just scoop her up and give her a big hug. And that, to me, was really important for me to get that message, because that's what we need to do right now. We need every single moment when we have that urge to beat ourselves up or feel powerless because we're not getting it. It's like, just stop, just scoop him up and just give him a big hug and let him be okay with how he's feeling right now, so that he doesn't have to keep moving forward with this shame.
Yeah. Shame was one of the things that Morgan pulled down that was up right now. Shame.
Yeah, totally.
Self-sabotage, you know, self debilitation, you know. And then too, you just said something too. Like I did 2 shows this morning, and Morgan and I had a brief conversation because I was very open about what I've been feeling. I was using the example of sacred sexuality or sexual vibration. That wasn't what I was talking about. What I was talking about, it was a core experience that is replicated throughout all of my, you know, different streams of life, right? And so I was talking to her very much like what you're talking about, in terms of the way, like, in other words, I've done the work here before. If you look at the superficial thing that I was talking about, I've done the work. I know I have. I've made some lists. I've spent a lot of time there. And I was telling her that I guess what it is I feel like I'm in a higher state of awareness or something, because I didn't even know this stuff was there. And I'm actually feeling like I'm dying. You know, my words to her, I'm fucking dying. You know, I've noticed that I had to keep it to myself, and that something inside of me had to process it alone, right? I get the same kind of feeling from what you were just saying. The core, you know, the core of it. It's very cool.
I feel like we've been there as well, in very much in, you know, we've always said that for as long as we've been sharing our journey, that we kind of, we move like this. And I feel as though, it's particularly this year, we've really allowed ourselves to be in that, when we're here, you know, in this space and not here, we've allowed each other to be there to a new degree, and also not taken on the shame and the guilt and taken it personally that this person is over here. And you know, and that's so healthy, because we do have to do stuff on our own. And I also feel like we've reached a new level of interdependence as well, because that's always been something for us as spiritual partners, is that level of interdependence and not needing to have each other around. And I feel that I'm going to speak for me. I've reached a new level of that as well, whilst still coming to terms with this part of me that wants to wants to allow myself to completely expand into the feminine being that I am.
Mm. Yeah.
And part of that, you know, for me is liberating and free. For instance, you know, we've got a workshop coming up on Thursday, and we had a big chat about it about a week ago, if that. And Kirsty was saying, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And I said, why do you feel you have to do that? And it all came back to this expectation. And I said, there's no, just from my point of view, I just want you to know, but you have to feel this. You have to understand this yourself. I actually have no expectation whatsoever of you. As a matter of fact, if you want to go up to the Gold Coast with the kids for a bit and just chill out and hold space up there, then awesome, love it. You don't have to be here. And I don't need you. And that was the biggest thing I was communicating with Kirsty was I don't need you anymore. I want you to do what you know in your heart space is the right thing to do, because that's where the magic happens. That's where the space happens. And for me, like this year particularly, I've come really into this strong place within myself to go, because as you said, you know, we've done the work, but it's, for me, it's been getting used to the fact that I have done the work, and now I'm sitting in this amazing place. And don't feel ashamed.
Letting it be real.
Yeah, don't feel ashamed and guilty that you're sitting in place, James, because I used to. You know, getting over post-traumatic stress and all that other stuff, I felt guilty and ashamed for putting my hand up and said, I'm currently experiencing like the gift of the wound that I had from being hit by a roadside bomb and all this other stuff. And I felt really ashamed about expressing that to people. And then I owned, because I wasn't owning the gratitude and the gift of all the healing. And so, you know, my work this year, in a weird way, is like elevating my joy threshold to allow myself to realize, you know, that I've got this heart and I'm allowed to live in that, and then in living it, express it. And in doing it, you know, there's been a bit of recalibration between the two of us, but it hasn't been as like, I don't know, disconcerting or disruptive, I suppose, with the word as before.
Well, it's more mature.
That's beautiful.
We're both more mature. Like, you know, we've been
You're a
doing,
mature lady.
you know, we've been together since we were in our 20s, and so we've worked through all of these immature programs together. And so it does feel weird at times to be in this mature space and allowing the other person to fully be embodying who they are.
No, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant explanation. It really is. And you know, and I picked this up from both of you right now too, when you both had around there, that there is, and I just realized there is something different here. And I think Morgan, I was mentioning this to her when we talked briefly earlier. I'm not unhappy. Like I'm not like, you know, like I'm very happy. I'm at peace. I'm doing what I want. But there is this death thing going on, and it hurts. And that's a little bit different, because I can remember even talking to y'all and other couples and other people I've talked to, and even looking at myself. If I go back 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever, we have talking along the same lines, and you could see, touch, and feel, you know, the angst and the confusion and the chaotic frequencies, right? That is something that's different. And now that you mention it, I bet you there's more and more people out there that are experiencing the same thing, which is you're feeling it, but it's not debilitating. And you're still going about your business at a you know, in a more balanced way.
Yeah. And I love what someone just said in the chat, when there's no control, there is freedom to choose. And that's so true. You know, when we let go of any illusion of control over each other or our kids, everybody's got freedom to choose. And that's a journey that every single one of us has to take.
And that means, like, for me particularly, I then become really grateful that I wake up in the morning and you're lying next to me, because that means you've actually chosen that you want to be with me. That you want to wake up. And it wasn't my snoring that woke you up, you know.
Dude, you're setting the bar for all of us right now. That's like one of the most beautiful things you can say, man. That's just like, wow. Very cool. Very cool. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was looking for who said, oh, it was Peter Ritson, where there is no control, there is freedom to choose. Yeah, that's true too. And I heard something the other day, and I've repeated it a couple of times, but it's along the same lines of what he's saying, and I still don't totally understand it, but it is okay. So the lady said that was on the show, we were talking about having dimensional experiences, be it a visitation or an apparition or a feeling or whatever. And she said, the way I discern anything that happens is, does it feel all right? And when I walk away from it, or when it's done and finished, the episode, has it left me with more choices?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Right?
Yeah. Awesome.
And that's like one of those things you look at and go, wow, I know it's more than those 8 or 9 words. There's something in there that's really, and now that this is, coming up, yeah, that may be a pretty good navigation piece as we go forward, is whether it's a human interaction or anything else, is this giving me more choices? Is because that is you can only have more choices by having more freedom, right? Yeah, it's interesting. Thank you, Peter, for that comment.
Yeah, well, thanks, Peter. It just said Facebook user at my end.
Yeah, if you're in the Soulogy group, it doesn't come up with the names. The other platforms do. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry about that, but yeah, I thought it was.
It's really interesting you mentioned that, because what I believe we're witnessing is a breakdown in the architecture that societies are constructed, and any ecosystem, when it gets to a point of finite expansion where it can no longer sustain itself, it literally does have to regenerate. The way it regenerates is by natural collapse. Yeah. So if you look at the architectures we've had for understanding human consciousness, understanding interactions at a multidimensional level, just simply understanding how I live on a daily basis. The psychological and psychiatric fraternities have been under, and therefore the general medical industry have been under a very big pressure at the moment. And I think what you're seeing at the moment is an internal combustion on the inside. You look at doctors, they have the worst health rate going around, the highest level of prescription drug abuse in Australia. Nurses have a very low, they have a high stress rate and a very low health rate. So all these beautiful people with massive hearts that are trying to be out there and help people, they are in a system which is not conducive to a natural state of being, which is reflected in their own health. So if we come back to the fact that that's a beautiful thing to, that's a beautiful place to be, because it means that there will be a death, and with death will come new life. But the birth that I'm seeing at the moment, especially with people I'm working with, anything from people that have been previously diagnosed with ADHD or ODD, I love, oppositional defiance disorder. A leader that
is that a real one? Yeah. I like that one too.
Yeah, it's odd. Yeah, it's simply an incredible young leader who's not been given the right environment or the right mentor to find their own place. Is my definition of it. That's not a DSM, but anyway. But working with them, all of a sudden they start to admit that, hold on, I actually am seeing stuff. I am interacting with things. I see it in the corner of my peripheral, or I know their presence or whatever. And they've never had someone in their life which can mentor them through that engagement. And my first point is, ground yourself, ground your energy and hold yourself in your body, because it will be, some will have an out-of-body experience, but in the presence when you're doing this, ground your energy into your physical form and center yourself in your heart space and come from a place of love, because you then don't need to defend yourself, because love operates on a frequency above that darkness. And there will be many entities that have an ulterior motive, but if you're coming from a heart space of love, you're actually able to see through that distortion of the frequency to what the question I ask is, so what is the universe providing me as a positive lesson to learn in this experience? Yeah. And so how can a positive lesson from this experience? And in whatever interaction that is, be that a physical person, be that a non-physical being, that if we come from this grounded state and center ourselves in our heart space and then allow ourselves to interpret it, it's just like
because the positive is a perception, right?
Exactly.
Because we can see two people can see something, the same situation, completely differently. So if I'm asking myself that question, then I'm actually looking at what I want to create.
Exactly. Yeah. And some people have gone to a medium before or psychic, and they say, yeah, this psychic said this. Well, they've brought that energy through, that interpretation of the information through their own conditioning and filters. It's exactly the same with other entities. So if we take that understanding and then go, right, what do I need to do with any information? Go back to what Lord Buddha said 2,500 years ago. Don't believe a single word I say to be true unless it resonates in your own heart space.
Yeah.
And that was an enlightened being who got that. So, that if we just remember that one thing, it doesn't matter what interaction we have, be that on a daily relationship basis with the kids, with the dog, with anything else that some people might call not real, other people will call definitely real, all about my perception. Then if I come from that grounded state within my heart space, then things will take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, I like that example of the medical system, because it's like when you said that, it's both kind of scary and it's also kind of encouraging, because so I was looking at it, and so like let's say the matrix is the medical system or institution. It sets the tone. It's then bought into by the workers, right? By the people who are basically aligning to that frequency.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. And now they're a copy of that frequency. And I think what James was talking about was how in the natural process, it has to implode before it's born again, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at it, like kind of like in the field as I'm listening to him. And then I see an individual walk up and say, here's my frequency. Just exactly what you were talking about right now. Here's my frequency. And I'm not changing it. In other words, this is, I'm going to be to thine own self be true. And so I see how this is changing the elements of the matrix. We'll just call it that, or say like in this case, the medical institution. That's a really good example though, because anyone that's been around the medical industry knows, and those nurses, he's right. I mean, they take a lot of pills and they have a lot of stress.
Yeah. Actually, if you talked about masculine and feminine before, watch nurses, particularly female nurses, and they'll fall to their masculine. They're very much in their masculine in their daily work.
Yeah, true. Yes.
And right now, I mean, and you've seen it with the education system this year, with schools having to close and, all of that as well. That the energy of that system needs to change too. And each person within, I love how you just described it, Todd, because each individual human within that system is being given a choice to decide to move to stay with that frequency that's not able to hold, or to move beyond it. And that's the awakening that we're in. That's the great awakening, is this understanding that I had the power all along.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So like the time that you got to go.
She's got 5
minutes.
Okay, you got 5. So like it's really weird, because if you look at that example again, it's like okay, we were talking about this the other day about situations like this. So you walk into a bank, right? I mean, most people, and I haven't been one in years to get a loan or anything like that, but you walk into a bank and there's immediately this atmosphere that you're stepping into. And most people get the EBGBs in a bank, unless they're just cashing a check or something like that. It's just got this weird frequency. Like you're walking into a place that sells loans, that's their tool. Yet you walk in there and you're all like in almost in an ashamed mode. Like like, oh my God, they're going to pull my credit and they're going to find out this and that. And I mean, it's like weird. And so I see this example. And it's weird because if you look at it like from, say, the tuning fork scenario, Well, the medical institution is a big fucking tuning fork, but it's got no tone if it's got no people, that are in tune with it. So I can see what's happening here is what we're witnessing, and we've been talking about this the last 3 or 4 days. All of these success stories, all of these. I had 2 brothers yesterday I talked to, man, and they're blowing up. People are blowing up everywhere, and it's all centered on to that, to thine self be true, to thine own self be true. If that occurs, and as it occurs, it is going to change the frequency of whatever it is that we coexist in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good example. I like that. Thank you for sharing that with me. So, Kirsty, I know you got to go in a few minutes, in 3 or 4 minutes, but just before you head out, and I love the fact when you opened up, you were talking about your masculine and your feminine. It's such a semi-complicated thing as we weave through this. You know what I mean? But how does it feel now? I mean, do you feel like, people talk about the divine union within themselves? And I know everything's a moving target in our journey and it never ends, but do you feel like you're close, we're close? What's your take on that?
I feel as though we're in this, we used the word weird before, and I really feel as though we're in this weird stage. And the weird stage is my body knows what it's doing, but my mind, I joined the army because I thought that I needed, because I thought I needed to be masculine and I thought I needed to be strong. And there's no celebration of the feminine in the military whatsoever, and so that was my reality. And my mind created all of these decisions around the feminine and weakness and the masculine and strength. Yet my body knows how strong I am as a woman. And my whole life I've been like stoic, and I have, because I can do stuff, I do it. And what James was talking about before, releasing any expectation of myself and being able to just be who I am and know that just being this woman is enough is it is weird. It's still weird. And I feel as though so many more people, and we are, you want to use the word starseeds, light workers, whatever, but our frequency is going like this really quickly. And so we are stabilizing that, but it still feels weird.
Yeah.
And the thing is, weird's not negative.
No, I know. I get what you're saying. It's like I was saying earlier. I feel all this dying going on inside me, but I'm good. But it's weird. It's weird to be able to simultaneously experience both. It's like this is new territory. I've been saying for a long time, I think the biggest challenge we have is getting used to our natural nature and how things are. We keep waiting for the shoe to drop.
Exactly. And, and like you were talking about going in the bank and thinking I've done something wrong or someone's going to get me. And that's, when I stand in who I am, and which, we've all been practicing for quite some time, but now we're doing it to a whole new level. And when I stand in this person that I am, my mind wants to go, no, you're going to get in trouble, you're going to get shot down, yada, yada. And these are conversations that I'm having with our children regularly as well, because they're feeling it too. So, it feels to me like it's a period of stabilization. And as I said to James the other day, it's actually grounding in this expansion and that way, because we are expanding so much and so quickly.
Has your sacred sexuality vibe changed? I guess everything's changing, but has it done anything noticeable? Your intimate, when I don't mean physical intimacy necessarily, I'm talking about your connection, your sacred sexual connection that you co-create, that you create. Both of you, yes, you, because you're about to leave. You go first.
Oh yeah. Has the vibe? Yes, it has. because it's that ability to surrender completely, to myself and then to James, and trust. You know, we've always said that the sexual union is the deepest.
Yeah.
We talk about non-consent. It's the greatest violation that a woman can experience. And so what's the opposite of that? I'm rushing now because I have to go. But for me, yes, it has. And it's more about being, which is always what I've truly, truly desired. And so there's that expectation in there as well. I'm going to let James continue.
He's screwed with that answer. I mean, that was beautiful, though. Thank you for sharing that. I'm making a joke because I like to give James a hard time, but yeah, Morgan's thinking the same thing. She said, "Just have to look at his face. No answer needed."
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Yeah, that was, and you know, I was talking about today because to me, it's the biggest indicator. It's like the core. If you're in a relationship, and I guess maybe even if you're not, but I mean, there is something happening there. To me, it's almost like an incubation. I see it happening. Let's get out of the bedroom because people immediately think, you know, we're talking 3D intimacy. We're talking multi-dimensional intimacy. But if I pull out of the bedroom, come down here, I'm in the studio. If I look at the creative aspect of my life, which is that energy, it's blowing up. You know, it's fluid. It's stuff falling into place. And here's the thing that I was talking about earlier today. I'm watching it happen with people all over the place, and that's really exciting. Like that's that kind of we were talking a minute ago, but the hospital, that's the people coming to work going, I'm, you know, here's my tuning fork resonance. I'm not going to align with that. This is mine. And then another one walks in, and then things start to change as opposed to things changing us, you know?
And you said it perfectly before when you said it's an individual who buys into that energy that then becomes part of the perpetuation of that whole thing, be that a bank, be that a hospital. Penny, my daughter who's going to violin right now, she loves trampoline, and she injured herself on trampoline quite badly the other day. And we knew it wasn't a break because she got back on the trampoline and plowed through it, but then wondered why the ankle just was not working for the next week. And so goes, I need an x-ray. I've got to go and get an x-ray. Now, Penny's 12 and she's never seen a doctor in her life, less the person who helped her come into the world. And because she's never needed to. And so we've gone, right, if you want to go, I'll take you down to the medical center at Byron Bay, to the hospital. And anyway, I'm driving her down because she wants to go. And I said, so what's your intention about going into this place? Because you haven't been to this place before. And you've got to understand that this place is an intense place with a lot of stuff going on. And if you don't set your intention, you could be buffeted by it because she's really empathetic.
Yeah.
She just takes on a lot of stuff. So anyway, we got through it and she started by pushing back at me, but then saw the reason. So actually she said it. And it was to give her a better understanding how to help herself heal. And I'm going, this is perfect. Like, wow, you're 12, you know? So anyway, we go in there and I get told to stand behind the line, you know, got to put a mask on and everything. And like, I looked at her and she says, we have to put a mask on. And I said, do you want to go in here? Because if you want, you're entering their system. You can stay sovereign within yourself, but if you're going to enter their system, you'll generally have to step through the doors that they want you to step through. She says, I want to step through. So we threw these masks on, which was a bit funny. And she gets put in a wheelchair. Can't understand why she's put in a wheelchair when she got walked in the door. But anyway, and so we get wheeled into this room and finally this doctor comes. Now, this doctor couldn't have been the most, like, Penny manifested the most amazing doctor for her first ever visitation. Her bedside manner was awesome. She joked. She was from Ireland. Her sense of humor was epic. And so gets off, wheeled away to do an x-ray, comes back. We waited, I don't know, 30 minutes in this room, Penny and I. And by this stage, it was becoming too stuffy, so we just took our masks off. And then the doctor comes in with no mask on anyway. She sits down and she goes, "Oh, bugger it." And she goes, I said, "Do you want us to put masks on?" She said, No, you're right. And Penny is manifesting this whole situation to, it was as long as she stayed centered with herself. And in the end, sure, her foot wasn't broken, but we got an awesome anatomy lesson through the x-ray, which I couldn't have asked for something better as far as her education goes from a professional. And then we go out, and in the foyer, there's this person literally arguing and berating the front desk staff because they've chosen to enter that premises in a different vibration. We chose to enter that premises and hold our vibration, and look what we manifested. So all we've got to do is stay centered and come into that space, and things take care of themselves.
Yeah. Well, that's an excellent story. There's so many things said in that story, you know, powerful. You guys are you in Queensland? Are you in Queensland?
The border.
What's that?
In New South Wales, we're just about 60 kilometres south of the border. Between New South Wales and Queensland.
Oh, okay. I'm confused. So New South Wales, is that where Victoria is? No.
See, the east coast of Australia, you've got Queensland at the top with the horn, New South Wales in the middle, and Victoria down the bottom.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. But still, there's got to be, you know, I mean, I know you interact and you work with a lot of people, both individually and in groups, and even different age groups. Are you seeing anything with the people that you engage with? I mean, are you seeing anything that maybe is somewhat common in all of them in terms of change and transformation? Are you seeing anything like that?
Yes. The biggest one that you mentioned earlier on is shame and guilt. Seeing them massively, it's coming up in spades because shame and guilt are two of the most low vibrating emotions we have. Speaking of entrainment, as Denise said, 2020 vision or 2020 hindsight, you know, which one are you going to go for as far as what the year represents? It's a little bit funny if you think about it. Exactly. Sorry, when I think about it. But it's been a year where if you're not doing any work on yourself, then generally compliance is where you've gone in Australia. And you just will comply to what's being said. If you're doing a bit of work on yourself, then you're going to fight and back and you rebel. But it must be remembered that the rebellion is dictated by that which it's rebelling against. They're just polar opposites. Exactly. If you're continually on a daily basis doing work on yourself and looking at transcending the fight to this new place of weirdness that we're talking about, then what I'm witnessing is that big last lunge is really letting go of that low shame, guilt, and it has been painful for many people, and but at the same time, you know, it's liberating and confusing at the same time because society's told them that they should feel ashamed and guilty about who they are, and what I'm witnessing most is because shame is an emotion centered on our being, guilt is an emotion centered on our doing. So that's why they hang out together, because in our psyche, we've linked our doing and our being. Take money. You use the bank example. Am I of worth? Well, my doing dictates if I'm of worth, but actually, no, your beingness does. So low self-value, low self-worth is about my beingness, not my doingness. It will just, in my doingness, it will come through in spades. So the shame and the guilt is time and space to let that go. So you purify your beingness to a point where our doingness then is a natural expression of who we are in this reality. And that's when harmonic resonance starts to happen around us, and wonder and awe start hitting you left, right, and center, because it's like, wow, I never saw that one coming. That's amazing. And people start offering you things and like talking to you as if you're really important. And as I was explaining to a young 17-year-old this morning, people want to feel important. They don't want to feel important. They want to feel what the importance gives them. And it's just the architecture of importance, which is providing that feeling. And that feeling is of self-worth, self-power. And all of a sudden, people are interacting with us in this way, and we're all having this feeling of coming together, and this unity you're talking about, everything you've been doing for the last 9 years, the new platform and everything. These people are vibrating at this level and just moving forward and moving up. It's epic.
It is epic. It really is epic. I mean, I don't know what else to add to that, because regardless of all, well, I guess if we look back at the last few years, there has been an ebb and flow, but there's been a continued graduation to the next threshold, to the next, and it just, I was thinking about what Martin McNichol said on the earlier show today, and he was saying how this was literally the last vestiges, the core layers or whatever that are shrouding our soul, shrouding our energy, whatever. And it really feels like that to me. It feels like something's breaking open, unobstructed, and regardless of whatever the hell's going on out there. You said that if a person has not been doing work, then in Australia they typically fall into compliance. Totally. And then the person that's been doing work, something else, and I can't remember what you said on that one, but what I was seeing too was like this, I don't know if it's the second person or there's another one there, but what I was seeing was these people that have been doing work, really, I think, at least from my own perspective, they're not looking out there anymore. They're going into it when they have to go into it, like your trip to the doctor with your daughter, and making the choice in a moment by moment, including taking the mask off when you're sitting there for a long time in a room with just you and her, and the doctor walks in and meets that frequency, right? It's like they're not playing in those waters anymore. And there's been a lot of polarization and political comments and division and separation and bullshit and projection in the light worker community, especially as the election came nearer and since. I think that the ones that are really doing the work, and I'm not taking shots at anybody out there that's posting stuff like that, but I think that the ones leading the way are the ones that are they're engaging that when they have to, at a minimum, when they have to go to the store, when they have to go to the chemist, when they have to go to the doctor, whatever the case is. But for the most part, they're fortifying their field by, not engaging that, overextending themselves in that.
You're dead on, man. Every tradition that's been on the planet of purity talks about the inner journey, the inner alchemy, and that's the road, which is one, less traveled, but two, it's the road that allows us to experience an outward reflection of that inner. So, lots of people have asked me why I don't commentate on the current situation, because the commentary I actually give is the commentary from in here. And I'm helping people. And sure, a young 17-year-old was disrupted by the whole election thing. And she's in Australia. She's 17.
Right.
That's cool. She's got a vested interest in what's happening in the globe. That's beautiful to have a vested interest in what's happening in the globe. But coming back to understanding that what she was doing was stepping outside herself and gifting her power and authority to other people in the conversation, instead of holding that power, not having to comment even, just acknowledging compassion and listen with a compassionate ear. Because go back to that point about importance. When people talk about politics, realistically, they're just wanting to sound important. And because they feel that, like celebrities, the power's out there. They'll say, oh, wow, look at those celebrities. They're amazing. Look at those politicians. They know what they're doing. Yeah, come on. Seriously? So but that commentary doesn't matter, because
Yeah.
realistically it just goes round and round.
That's a very good point, James. I mean, like, you could even look at that with virtually any type of narrative.
Exactly.
You know, that's why I always had a problem with the Q thing. It's not that I think it would be a great storyline if it was a great reality to have white hats in the government and all this starships lining up and you know, but I saw it as a disempowering frequency. That's just my opinion. And I'm not saying the whole thing. I'm not saying there wasn't some, you know, whatever you want to call it, but for the most part, you know, people giving their power up. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about it now. And maybe that's what had to happen. Maybe it had to run its course. And maybe, you know, I love what Franco said when he came on. You know, we all know he's got excellent intel and he gets it very real time. And it's very general. And it was 2 weeks before the election. And they said, you guys haven't decided who's going to win yet. We haven't decided, not the voters, but the consciousness where we all meet. And basically, essentially, it was undecided because we haven't figured out how far we want to push the envelope, you know. And he explained both routes end up in the same place. But yeah, I just hearing what you're saying and the way you described that earlier about the people in Australia doing work or not doing the work, you know, maybe this is what we're talking about. Maybe this is what I've been observing and people have been talking about is well, if you think about the external being your partner, like say you're married, you know, and that's your partner. How long would that last? It wouldn't last long. Not in this universal energy. That's, you know, that's continuing to expand. You'd be like, hey, you know, like Morgan used to tell me, you better pull your finger out or I'm not going to be here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So so then if that were the case and the partner didn't respond, what's going to happen? So either the partner's going to match you, like the people that now go back to the hospital who say, this is my frequency and I'm not going to align to yours, or it's no longer going to be in your field.
You take the lady who was sitting next to me, my spiritual growth partner in life, sometimes colloquially known as my wife. She gave me a lot of reasons to leave.
Yeah.
And then I flipped it on her and I turned up the volume and I gave her so many reasons to leave. And we had this dance. Like, I've often, and so many people have heard, you know, the reasons that I gave her to leave. Not many people know the 5 to 6 years before any of my stuff happened, where I was simply holding space in her period of depression because she was in the military machine and basically her soul was being stomped on. She was allowing her soul to be stomped on, and it was a birthing. She had to go through depression as a birthing process to come out the other side. And then she wants to go and study this thing called naturopathy. And back in my military days, I didn't even know what naturopathy was, let alone know how to spell it. So then she's gone through that whole period of birthing and finding herself again to be then positioned for me to have to destroy, like literally destroy myself, to then birth myself afresh and come out again. We're 21 years together. Our relationship looks absolutely nothing like it did 21 years ago. In 21 years ago, whenever we saw each other, we were fucking like monks or minks or whatever you do that comes together a lot, you know. And rabbits, there you go. And so that was thing. But there was a deep union. There was a spark. That's cool. The spark has matured, and she even said it on parting. You know, it's really matured in our union. So, like, we can really, like, we don't feed off each other anymore. Yeah. It's a meeting of two beings that have a mutual admiration society for their own presences, not just the presence of the other person, but it's the presence of self and this union thing. So I don't jump on her or she doesn't jump on me. It's like this invitation to come to this united space, which is not her space, not my space, but this space we create together. And that I've actually seen lately, the more I focus on that and put that practice of learning from our relationship into realizing that I can create that in every single relationship I have, the more I can actually create that sacred space in every relationship.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with what do you say that? So that's where I'm at with my understanding of my core relationship with an external, with something that's not all within myself. Morgan, I'm starting to see, how that frequency, that sustainable frequency, can be duplicated all the way around.
Yeah.
I think I started to really look at that in September when we met up with like-minded or like-frequency androgynous beings and couples, and I started to see more in the field. Like, how does this work? Where you can't align with 10 or 100 or 1,000 before you align with the first. You have to align with one-on-one. Two have to do it first, and then it starts to develop. And of course, that same thing can be done by one person. But I mean, we are externalizing everything in this particular incarnation or set of incarnations. But yeah, I can see that, and I can see where there's a lot of characteristics that are happening out there that are happening within the relationship too. It's an interesting mix because I've thought for a long time, what is that? What is a sacred union? And why is it some people are single and you know what I mean? All that stuff. But I can see it. And I think it's taken hold as well.
It is. And a lot of the work that I'm witnessing from people that are, especially entering the Hieros Gamos space, because a lot of them will call it Hieros Gamos before they'll go into sacred union. It sounds more sexy and more marketable or whatever it is. And it's they're really blessed souls because and most of them are young. They're between their 20s and their 30s. And they're really rebirthing this whole experience, but at the same time, they're claiming something which they haven't yet reached, and that's cool because it's their journey. What they do need is people like yourself and Morgan and some amazing people that you get on the show to stand as mentors for them to realize that their energy to the mature space. And Kirsty, the other day, after going back into the bedroom for a minute after making love, she says, "Has anything changed in our relationship in making love?" And I said, "Well, that's a loaded question, so why do you ask?" And she says, "I just feel there's more maturity from you." And it's true because for so long the boy showed up instead of the man. But you see that happened with true. But as a son, I often ask, as a son, are you a man or are you a boy? As a daughter, are you a girl or are you a woman? It's in every aspect of our life. So that's been a big process for us to move through.
Yeah. That's interesting too, what you said. And I saw a dynamic last night. I don't know if you saw it, but Morgan got asked to do a show with three. I would say they were probably late 20, early 30s. One female and two males. And the interesting thing was, I didn't watch. She did it, and I was working. So then I was going to run to the store and take a drive. So I thought I'd listen to it. But before I left, she started to talk to her 18-year-old son in Melbourne, and the frequency of her voice, like I've heard her talk to him many times. You know what I mean? Like sometimes when we get on the phone with a kid, we talk a certain way. You know what I mean? And so when I got in the car and I turned on the show, and the show happened to be about sacred sexuality, Hieros Gamos, sacred union, so on, she had the same frequency. I noticed something because, obviously I'm exposed to a lot of broadcasting, and I'm mostly in those broadcasts. But I study that stuff, I do that. That's part of what I do. But I thought, wow, what is going on here? So you've got two younger men, a younger woman with Morgan, and the frequency is a more balanced, typically a more balance than what I see out there of masculine and feminine. And not only that, but the dialogue and the ease of dialogue. So I think you bring up a really good point. And the reason I hit this is because she had just been talking to her son. I thought, oh, wow, she sounds like she's talking to Jordan, right? But you bring up a good point. And I think what I got from it, as I talked to her about it when I got back, is I said, it's interesting. First of all, the young lady who's real connected, she's been on the show. She got it. She got the whole, everything that Morgan was talking about. Like, she was like, yes. She put her hands in the air. You know, the guys were like, now they were getting it. They were understanding it, but the girl had already gotten it. Right. You know what I mean? And I guess what I'm saying is it was something that I haven't seen. Say it's, you know, 2 or 3 50-year-olds and you know, 2 are men and whatever. There's less that you've got to pry open with those younger people. They're more open.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point. And I applaud you for working with these young people. In fact, I you know, we talked a little bit before the show, and to me, that would be a huge addition as this platform is set to expand dramatically. That would be a huge creative addition to the programming, or the message, or the frequency would be to involve, you know, teenagers, 20s and early 30s, you know, that frequency, and talk about some of this stuff, because I saw something last night. I mean, I don't mean to sound hokey, but I saw the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously.
Last night, my daughter got back. I hadn't seen her. She'd been away camping most of the weekend. Actually, no, it was Sunday night. She'd been away camping most of the weekend. She's 14. She's taught me so much. Like, it's just incredible, this young lady. And she goes, I was out camping with all these people, and we're in this tent, and the rain happened, and it fell down, and the tent fell down, and it was a pretty chaotic experience. But she slept through most of it. And she woke up, and when she went to sleep, there was one person next to her, a girl next to her. And when she woke up, there's a bloke next to her. And she's like scratching her head, and she goes to them, so, hold on a minute, why are you there? And she's looking around going, what's happening? And they all laughed at her and said, you've slept through so much. And she's gone, so what was happening? She says, oh, well, that couple were making out, and they were really loud, and this, that. And so there's all this stuff happening around her, and I'm listening. And I'm trying to put it together too. Like, I'm a bit of a visual person, and I thought I knew who was going to be, but it ends up that I didn't. So anyway, so I'm just trying to track and understand and ask questions to clarify. But then I realized I stopped asking questions, because I realized the only clarity I needed was to see that incredible young woman, how amazing she can hold herself in a space.
Yeah.
Everything else going around her, and her spiritual and emotional literacy is the fact that she's got life. She's 14, and I can actually die now.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation with both my girls since they were both 10. And I wanted them to know that if I die today, they've got life, you know, and
Yeah.
I'd be upset if I did, but I know in my heart of hearts, they're amazing people, and they've got life. And on Sunday, I was gifted with this, and because I allowed myself to receive it by getting out of my mental chatter, I was gifted with this awesomeness of a display of a young, mature person at just 14 who can hold herself in any environment. Job done, James. Actually, I didn't do anything. I just stood there and created a few issues initially, and then loved her, you know,
right.
And she's done the rest.
I mean, they're amazing. When I went homeless, my kid was 16, my oldest boy. And because, you know, this is 2012, you know, 2011, 2012. So we've, you know, everybody was, definitely something was, you know, had been altered, right? And most of our lives got pretty loud. But my son, we'd meet up, and obviously a lot of stress and stuff. And but he'd tell me one day, he said, Dad, I think I said, it's going to be okay. You know, like, hang in there. Your dad's fucked, you know, but it's going to be okay. And he said, Dad, it's always okay. And I'll never forget that. I thought, whoa, he's right. It doesn't have to be like this. I can just be okay. It's going to be okay. You know what I mean? It was pretty incredible. Yeah, they really have a lot to offer, and I really feel like that younger frequency, because it's atypical, because it seems like everything that's working, that is creating more choices and creating more freedom and so on, are not things we've done before. So it makes sense to me that the young people, their frequency is going to be maybe not the leader, but a leader.
Yep.
You know, as opposed to shut up and do what I say, not or do what I say, not what I do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I really feel like that. So I absolutely, absolutely admire the fact that you work with these young people. And on that note, do you have anything, or Kirsty have anything coming up that we can expand the awareness of? You got anything coming up in November, December?
No, just doing our normal thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And spreading the word that whoever wants to listen and wants to unite with the word and amplify it. So
yeah. Right on. Right
yeah,
on.
there's actually yeah, there's a couple of things. I suppose I've just remembered, because I'm doing a bit of stuff and I keep forgetting what I'm doing. Go back to that point about being in the now that I mentioned.
Yeah.
I gotta really think. There's a men's work group that's called Menergy in Australia. They do some awesome work. They used to be they are very large and have very large men's gatherings once a year. But obviously this year, because they were Victoria based, that didn't work. So they've gone online on the 26th of November. They're doing an online platform launch with a series of workshops for it. So yeah, I'll be involved in that. Been asked to be one of them.
Menergy? Is that what it's called? Menergy?
It's actually OMG, I think they've changed it to online men's group.
Okay.
And in Australia. So yeah, that'll be helping a lot of Australian men just rebirth themselves, go through the death process, and come back to a new life. So a bit excited about that.
Sounds like a pretty easy proposition. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm over here dying. I'm over here dying the last few days.
But the thing is, we laugh about it now, eh?
Yeah, but it is that you did point something out, and that is it's happening, but everything else is flourishing. It's weird. It's weird. It's that weird space that you're talking about. Maybe that's the navigator, the indicator, is if you don't feel weird, like things are weird, then you might need to take another look under the hood, right? I don't know.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. So, man, it's good seeing you. I look forward to continuous collaborations, and it's always a pleasure. And I love you both very much, and I appreciate what you're doing. And I just look forward to mixing our energies and supporting you to expand what you're doing, or the awareness of what you guys do. So I just want to say thank you, and all blessings to you and your family.
Thanks, Todd. And to you and Morgan, we really take our hats off, and we really feel a very, very deep heart connection. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, brother. I'll see you later.